Hey guys, T-Bull here. Today I got a preview of the new upcoming ranked season. I think it's season 5. This will be a tier 6 ranked season. It'll be the first time we have uh, ranked tiers, or tier 6 in the ranked, of course, on World of Warships Legends. I'm going to be going through each class, kind of giving you my top 3 picks for each class. There's going to be a lot of variety in terms of ships. Tier 6 has, I think, the most ships of any tier right now in the game. So we'll be seeing a lot of different options out there. Should be an interesting season. Maybe you're going to be disagreeing with me on these picks. That's fine. I do want to hear what everyone's going to be playing for ranks. So let me know in the comments what ship you're planning on going into battle with. Should be a very interesting season just due to all the options that are available to the players. First up, we'll check out the destroyers. You can see the Maz on the screen here. That should be a little bit of a clue. I was going back and forth between the Maz and the Biscuit Wojskiewicza, for those of you not familiar with my work. The Biscuit does not have the sonar. The sonar / smoke combo kind of trumps everything. I was testing Benson, Kidd, and even though the Maz's guns aren't the strongest and counter-destroyer play is one of the key components of destroyer play in ranked, in terms of firepower versus other destroyers, the Moss is kind of on the weak side, actually. But it has the ability to smoke and radar or attack destroyers that are in smoke. Very good torp reload and torp coverage. We'll see a lot of torp play in this game. But zoning torps, or zoning the caps with your torps, meaning, kind of firing torps into the cap, basically continuously throughout the match, is a huge part of ranked destroyer play. And that's going to affect my rankings on some ships because the Moss has a really good spread, really good reload. Not the greatest damage, but that's not the most important thing. I mean, part of what we're trying to do is just either randomly hit destroyers or at least deter them from being too aggressive. So low damage torp's not the end of the world, but very effective overall. I think Moss is going to be quite strong. The Biscuit, on the other hand, pretty dang strong guns. Very sharp at punching destroyers, flat firing angles, easy to hit your targets. Kind of the knock on the Biscuit, though, it's 3x2 launchers, so you only get 6 torps per salvo. Very quick reloading, though. I think it's like 70 seconds, give or take, and you can pump those torps out very quickly. Excellent detection. If you have the Biscuit, you have Swirsky. You can run double concealment while still having another inspiration slot. So it's the ability to pack a very strong build on that ship. That's probably the destroyer I'm actually going to start playing with, just to see if I'm getting caught by some sonar smoke combos. If not, I'll probably just roll with the Biscuit. But if that is becoming an issue, then I'll probably switch over to the Moss. My third pick for destroyers, I also kind of agonized over this one a little bit. I ended up going with Jervis. Jervis's main knock, though, is the unavailability of the twist and track on either commander. So counter destroyer play without twist and track has an added level of difficulty, of course. Not having twist and track makes kind of the zoning torps a little bit more randomized. So, you got a 120-second reload on the torps, which is a long time if we're going to be trying to cover caps with torps. That's a very long reload. No twist and track. These things compound, but the Jervis does have the sonar smoke combo. Very quick reloading smokes, of course, with the British smokes system on there, and then nice HE systems with their guns. So it has pluses, it has minuses. We'll see how that one performs. I was playing a lot in the Benson, a little bit in the Kidd. Those are both very good at counter destroyer play, but if you get into a fight with like a Maz or a Jervis that has the smoke sonar combo, they can just kick your crap in certain situations. Akatsuki, Asashio, very good torps, of course. Pretty good reload, actually, for both of those. But the guns, when they get into destroyer v destroyer combat, can be a little bit dicey. So we'll see how that one does. I can see the Akatsuki performing pretty well. The Asashio, the guns are just so trash. I don't think that one's going to hold up. Terrible, Minsk. These two ships, while they're both very good in their own right, or they can have good games at least, I think the La Terrible is better than the Minsk. But the lack of smoke in ranked, I think, you know, when it's all on the line, not having the smoke available, it just makes things very risky. So I'm not planning on playing either of those two, but you know, if you go with Moss, Biscuit, uh, Jervis, I think those are going to be my top three picks. All these destroyers have their own strengths and weaknesses, so you can really make a case for a lot of them. I'll note also, previous seasons, destroyers were kind of the class to carry ranked games in. You really need good destroyer play in ranked. I don't think that's going to change this season, but it's going to be a little bit less dominant of a class in my prediction, according to my predictions, anyways, due to the presence of the radar cruisers. Now, some of the radar cruisers at Tier 6 are kind of suspect. Indianapolis, kind of a dud in my opinion. Shores, high damage output. If played properly, if played really well, it could be a pain to deal with, but if it's spotted, it can get deleted basically by anything from any direction. And in Atlanta, that one's kind of a wild card in my opinion. I think people that are really good at Atlanta will have high impact games. People that are kind of not the best Atlanta players, you're going to be tending to find yourself out of position. And in Atlanta, that's out of position is kind of irrelevant. So I'd say Atlanta is the strongest out of those three. Out of the radar cruisers at Tier 6, though, I think Belfast is the best. And for that reason, I'm going to put it at the top slot in my rankings for this season. Good Belfast players who understand how to cover caps with their radar can win and lose games. And I'll just point this out for everyone watching. No matter what class you are, when a ship is radared, particularly a destroyer in the cap, every single person on the team who has a shot at that ship needs to shoot it. You need to take that radar and convert it into a dead cruiser. If not, it's a failed play and your team just massively hurts yourself. I think good radar play this season can win and lose games, but there's going to be a lot of suspect radar play as well, and in that case, they're just kind of be wasted. So really keep an eye out. You got to be paying attention to the map. You got to have good game awareness, and we got to be focused on removing the destroyers who have the best ability to cap. They have the best ability to scout, put pressure on your own destroyers, so on and so forth. Extremely important to get rid of them. And if we're going to elevate these radar cruisers in terms of importance and use them on our teams, we need to be converting those radars into dead destroyers. So be aware of what's going on at all times. Belfast, though, you got HE and the good British AP. You got your smoke. Hard to defend yourself. There's no torps, and you know it's the armor is pretty weak. So if you get rushed, if you get caught out of position, soloed, you're dead at that point in time. But if you got good protection, if you got good positioning, I think Belfast is going to be strong. Number 2, I got Myoko. If I pop into cruisers this season, this will probably be the one I personally play. I think the damage capabilities are the best in the Myoko. Extremely good guns. Of course, you have the torps from the rear. You have the ability to kite and anchor positions by using cover. Very strong in terms of cruisers. Excellent armor. If you angle properly, you can mitigate damage from pretty much all the ships at the tiers. So I think Myoko is going to be very strong. Doesn't have the radar, of course, but overall, if you understand how to play the Japanese cruisers pretty well, I think you can definitely have a good Season 5 in the Myoko. Number 3, I got Boise. Boise's, probably the best light cruiser. I mean, the Shores, of course, you have your IFHE type perk, which is going to increase the HE damage itself. But the Boise, its guns are kind of not quite as flat, so you can utilize the islands a little bit more. A lot of the ranked maps are kind of set up for island play. So I think the Boise is going to fit well in there. Of course, they have a very strong kind of super-ish heal on the Boise as well, which if you get kind of into sticky situations, you can disengage, drop out of detection, pop that heal, let the situation reset, and then kind of get back into it. So I think Boise is an extremely strong ship. Going to be, doing a lot of your damage with fire, so depending on the builds of the battleships, that aspect of it might be mitigated. Of course, the HE damage itself isn't the best because the low caliber guns without the IFHE perks kind of minimizes the actual damage you're going to be getting from those. Very dangerous for other destroyers. Of course, you don't have the radar, but you do have sonar, I believe. So, Boise is an all-around strong pick. There's other ships. The York's potentially interesting. York, I think the armor is good enough that you can actually kind of hold down positions and angle very steeply. So, good York players potentially might do well on that ship. Fiji, I would like it more, except for, in ranked, again, we're concentrated into 2 specific areas on the map usually, and then decent battleship players that are worth killing are going to angle against your position. It's very hard to deal damage in the Fiji against angled ships, but if you're good at aiming, you can do it. I mean, the Fiji is a very, very strong ship, and probably one of my favorite Tier 6 cruisers. We'll just see how that one performs. That can go either way. The American, New Orleans doesn't really interest me whatsoever. Algeria, I really don't think that's that strong of a ship. Charlemagne's kind of an Algeria clone. So, those are my picks for the cruisers. I think, again, this will be interesting to see how the players perform with these radars and even the non-radar cruisers. If people are starting to get the hang of the cruisers a bit more, this could end up being one of the dominant classes this season. Finally, we got the battleships. Now, in previous ranked seasons, I thought the battleship position was kind of a waste, to be honest with you. Hardest to carry, and not a lot to really do, just due to the destroyers being the most important class. Now, the destroyers probably still are going to be the most important class this season. At least you can make the case for that. But because they're going to have stronger counters with these radar cruisers out there, battleships are going to be elevated in importance. If you're choosing your targets properly, if you're not willing to target cruisers above all else, don't play battleships or don't play ranked because you're not doing it correctly, in my opinion. We got to get rid of the radar cruisers. That's always, doesn't matter ranked, non-ranked, it's always a top priority in terms of target selection. But when we are guaranteed domination mode and we're guaranteed to be concentrating on 2 tightly contested points, those radar cruisers gotta go. So you as a battleship player, focus on the game situation. Do not tunnel vision on angled battleships that are sitting way in the back doing nothing. You got to kill the cruisers first, or if you got a shot at the destroyer, especially one that's being spotted by a radar that's deployed by one of your cruisers, go ahead and take those shots. Shooting battleships, killing them, I think is going to be the least important thing. But again, because of these radar cruisers that are going to be out there, I think good battleship play will be a little bit more important this season. So what do I have for ranks? I got Hood number 1. I think the guns are very accurate. I think the armor is pretty solid as long as you're angling it properly. And there's just not a lot I really don't like about the ship. It doesn't have the devastating strike potential against battleships. Doesn't seem to be anyways. I'm starting to suspect it has short fuse shells. Maybe I used to know they did or didn't, but I forgot. But anyway, the more I play it, the more I'm seeing a lack of knockout punch against other battleships. But against cruisers, extremely dangerous and good enough shot to be a real threat to destroyers too. So I like the Hood. I'm considering popping into that one. I also like the CNOP. Those of you that got this out of the early access crate, this is a very, very strong ship. And I've actually put 16 points into my Kedrov commander because the more I play these Russian battleships, the more dominant I think that line is. So I'm going ahead and putting in some resources into that build. And by the time this rank season starts tomorrow, I'm going to actually get one of my inspirations for Kedrov boosted up as well. So CNOP, basically, I got videos on how to play these Russian battleships, but kind of nose in and mid-range threatening type of a battleship. If you're going to sit there broadside, forget it. The ship will get deleted by anything very quickly. But played properly, CNOP I think could potentially be the strongest at the class, kind of competing with Hood in my opinion. Number 3 is an interesting choice. There's a few options I could put in here. You got Colorado, which is kind of tanky, but has those knockout guns. Nagato is probably the strongest guns at the tier, but they get a little wonky in their dispersion. So, I mean, those are interesting options. Of course, we're going to have our German battleship players, so we'll see some Gneisenau, Scharnhorst. I don't think those are the strongest battleships in my opinion, but I know there's people who live and die on German battleships who are going to be running them at top performance. So look out for those. Leon, I mean, he got 16 guns, so that thing can left hook anyone at any time. Kind of a scary ship, but not the most durable. And that leaves us with my pick. I'm actually going King George over Nelson. I think the Nelson's damage output is extremely scary, but it's a little bit glass unless you play it very carefully. So I'm going to put King George down as my third pick, just as a strong HE threat that'll threaten any ships, including angled battleships, and pump out some damage as well. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. If you liked it, please hit the thumbs up. New to the channel, consider subscribing. A lot of World of Warships coming all the time. Again, let me know what you're planning on playing in the comments below. I'm interested to hear from you guys on that one. And we'll see y'all later. All right, peace.